If You Lived with the Sioux Indians by Anne McGovern, illustrated by Jean Sivrod Drew. The table of contents, how this story is split up, and the page numbers that you can find all of this information. Introduction. Indians were the first people to live in what is now the United States. By 1776, when the United States became a nation, there were about 250 different tribes living in different parts of the country. There was no such thing as one Indian way of life. Each tribe lived in its own way. Different tribes lived in different kinds of houses, wore different clothes, ate different food, played different games, and spoke different languages. Most of this book tells us about the way the Sioux tribe lived for 50 years, from about 1800, 24 years after the United States became a nation, until about 1850, when the white settlers came west by the thousands. Those 50 years were exciting times when the Sioux rode horses to hunt the buffalo that roamed the western plains. The end of the book tells about the way the Sioux Indians live today. Look at the timeline on this page. The part that is in color shows the years this book is mostly about. So 1400, 1500, 1600, 17, 1800 is what this is mostly about. Look at the map of the United States. The part in color is the Great Plains. This is the Great Plains, where they lived. At the time, there were 31 tribes on the Great Plains alone. All these Indians were Plains Indians. The Sioux tribe was one of the most famous of all the Plains Indians. They lived in what is now North Dakota and South Dakota. Dakota was another name for the Sioux tribe. There are still Sioux Indians in the United States. More than 92,000 Sioux are living today in North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. The way they live today is very different from the way their great-great-great-great-grandparents used to live. What was it like to be a Sioux Indian long ago? What was it like living in a teepee? Did boys and girls have time to play? What clothes did they wear? This book tells you. What did the Sioux Indians look like? The Sioux Indians did not have red skin. No Indians did. The color of their skin went from very light to deep brown. Most Sioux Indians were tall and thin. Boys and girls, men and women, wore their hair long. Their thick, dark hair came down to their shoulders. Sometimes they wore their hair loose, and sometimes they wore it in braids. They parted their hair down the middle. Women often painted the part line red. To keep their hair neat, they used hairbrushes made from the quills of porcupines. Keeping neat and clean was very important. They bathed as often as they could. If you lived with the Sioux, what kind of houses would you live in? You would live in a tent called a teepee. Your teepee would be made of tall wooden poles covered with tough buffalo hides. The buffalo hides were so tough they lasted through winter storms and summer heat. A small family's teepee had only one room, but if you had many brothers and sisters, your mother would make a bigger teepee. At night, you would look up and see the stars through the two flaps at the top of the teepee. When it rained or snowed, the flaps were closed. In a Sioux teepee, you would be warm in the winter and cool in the summer. When the Sioux moved from place to place, they took their teepees along. A teepee could be taken apart in minutes and quickly set up again. Women were in charge of the teepees. When it was time to move, women took their teepees apart. And when the tribe set up camp again, women put the teepees up. Women working together could put up a teepee in a few minutes. Would you live in the same place all the time? No, you would live in different places. The Sioux Indians had to keep on the move to hunt the buffalo that roamed the plains. When the Sioux Indians traveled, they took everything they had with them. You wouldn't travel much in winter months. It was freezing cold. All right, that's it for day 1.